Hello, I'm football commentator Derek Ray, and you're listening to the FUT Weekly podcast.
Hello, and welcome to week 4 of the FUT Weekly podcast. This is a content episode, and I'm joined by my co-host Josh Excels. Hello, Josh.
Yeah, good to be here. We've got the first champs under our belt, and I think the game's beginning to settle down a little bit. And there's lots of big content to come, including a massive player of the month that we've got. I think it's going to be the first of like 3 insane player of the month. So yeah, lots to get into.
It certainly is, and we have a man who I think has been getting into it over the last week, at least that's what I'm seeing. And so we'll hear from him on the content podcast, but also on the supported gameplay episode as well. So we're looking forward to that. But yeah, welcome to the content podcast, NepentheZ.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. First one of the year. I think I was on the last one of last year, wasn't I? So
yeah, that's true.
I was a bit disappointed not to be invited to the first one of this year, but it's fine. I'm here now, so yeah.
We were saving you for post champs. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's not a wise move.
So yeah, I mean, let's get started with pound for pound Powerhouse, and then we'll talk a little bit more generally, perhaps, about content so far, and then get on to the big topic, a few other things. But yes, pound for pound Powerhouse. We, as always, will go and do the winner for last week. So, NepentheZ, you can choose who should win it. The nominations were 𝘬𝘯𝘰𝗀𝘀𝘀, 𝘂𝘪𝘬𝘦, and 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦. So which of those 3? They're all the gold rares, just for reference. Which of those 3 would you go for?
Yeah, probably if I had to buy one, probably 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦. Because I just think he's easier to link, mind you, but actually 𝘬𝘯𝘰 with 𝗵𝗀𝘀𝘆 looks very, 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 very good. And I think we're starting to see it a little bit more. It reminds me of the first year that the women were in the game, where they were just so overpowered. I think we're seeing that a little bit more. And because I think we haven't had people figure out a crossing meta or how to use tall players, I think you can easily, in the current moment, get away with short centre-backs, which makes, for me personally, these female centre-backs outrageous. Like, look at her dribbling for a centre back. It's elite. It is elite standard. So yeah, I'd go for 3,800 coins for 𝘬𝘯𝘰. You can't go wrong, really, can you?
Yep. Nice. Well, Josh scoops that one. Definitely no bias, I assume. And we'll move swiftly on to this week's pound for pound nominations. So yeah, who are you going to be nominating, Net?
Who am I? Do I have to stick on gold cards?
No, you can go. So yeah, actually, maybe we explain again, just for listeners who haven't caught it. The way that pound for pound works generally is that it's a player released over the past week, but we do broaden it out at the start of the cycle, obviously, to allow people to pick the golds. So yeah, it could be a recent player or a gold.
Yeah, so my nomination will be a still currently active SBC, by the way of Lucia Rodriguez. She's extremely cheap, 84 rated, and is phenomenal in game. I'm actually playing her at left back rather than at right back, and she'll be in my team for a while in these current moments because she just feels incredible. She feels very fast, very good on the ball. The passing's really nice, and there's never been a game where I've felt if I just had a better left back, I would have defended that better. She's fantastic.
Yeah, 88 composure, which is unexpected, to be honest, and good short passing, and yeah, she looks really good. Interesting. Yeah, her roles are, or plus and plus roles are in false back. I assume you're not playing her as a false back.
No, I'm just playing as a fullback.
And also has centre back as well. So right back, centre back, and left back. It is interesting with all these squad foundations players because there is plenty of Evo potential, isn't there? And the fact that the rarity doesn't change obviously doesn't always change, means you can maintain that extra chemistry boost as well as they go through the Evos, which is nice. Yeah, I remember having that Sissoko last cycle and kind of holding off Evoing him because I'd lose the chemistry boost, which generally isn't the case this cycle, which is worth noting.
Also, this year you could just spend 50,000 coins on the cornerstone evolution, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's worth noting actually. I think some people maybe didn't clock that would give the chemistry boost. So yeah,
because we got one for free if you won enough games in the gauntlet. So you could get one for free and test it out, but it does give the chemistry boost, which is I think really I think it's pretty cool for this early in the game.
Yeah, I think it's been nice that Cornerstones hasn't just been completely generic. There's a little twist to it, I guess. And actually, the Cornerstones rarity for certain players for you is probably going to be quite useful. And it's open, isn't it, to sort of any overall. So I think that is quite a good thing, and it's around for a while, so you can kind of pick and choose. Wait a bit for someone who someone who you're not going to apply a different rarity to in the future, I guess, is the main thing. Right. We've had £1 for pound nomination, a good one. Let's go to you, Josh. Who are you going to be nominating?
Yeah, so I found it difficult this week because I wanted to kind of sway away from gold cards. I was very tempted to nominate 𝘭𝘪𝘬𝘦, but I think 70k is too expensive for pound at this point, but she's worth about 1 million coins, if we're being honest. I think it said a lot that on like Saturday and Sunday, prices all went down. They started to rise a bit, I think, last night and into today. And Pinya's price just kept going up because people just kept conceding to her in champs. But I'm actually going for the SBC that we got, Benrahma. Now, I used Mahrez like at the beginning of the cycle. He's one of the first cards that I packed, and I kind of enjoyed him. It meant I had a bit of like a Saudi league thing going on. Like this card, and I don't want to like go for the evolutions bit too early because he's going to need some play styles like on top of the 3 that he already has. But I just think for like a stats base, I don't think you can get much better than this for this kind of price right now. Like he's just got everything. Like 4-4 is really, really good. He can only play on one side of the pitch, which is a bit annoying, but he also has cam. Good, like decent pace, really good shooting. Passing's good across the ball. His dribbling is unbelievable. Like, I think this is kind of one of those cards where if you wanted to build a gauntlet team, this is one of those it'd be really nice to have in your club to like pair with a few other Saudi league players and kind of get that easy like links together, get some chemistry and have what is, he's probably not super elite, but is that next rung down of attackers that will elevate like your third gauntlet squad, for example. I think he's really, really good.
Yeah, he does it really good. Funny. So we've had 2 squad foundations so far, which says a lot for squad foundations at this point. I think the player I'm going to go for is the Trejo objective. I think the thing about, it's funny because often with these players, I think these lower rated players you can get through objectives and SBCs, we're like, they have good Evo potential, which he definitely does because he's only 83 rated. But he already looks very good, I think. He's got this interesting balance of, for those who don't know, he's got cam, centre mid, and striker, which is very good for Evos, right? There's a lot of potential Evos.
Yeah.
Put cam, centre mid, strikers through. But also he has kind of like an interesting stat balance where he's got really, really good agility and balance, like high 80s, and 85 composure, really good reactions, ball control and dribbling in the low 80s. But then he's also actually quite strong. He's got 80 stamina, 82 strength, 78 aggression, and 78 jumping. So, and good defensive stats. So he's actually very he's true kind of box to box player in terms of having a bit of everything. He's got great short passing. He's got 84 finishing, 85 attacking positioning. His sort of total in-game stats are really, really strong for an 83 rated, and has good base play styles as well. He's got tiki-taka, enforcer, inventive and game changer. Maybe inventive and game changer are kind of bonus play styles in a way, but do look quite good. I think because he's an 83 rated, although he has very good stats, none of his face stats are crazy high. He should have really good Evo potential and already has, I think, in terms of roles, Playmaker plus. And I think that's the only plus, but he does have False 9 plus and, only plus, but he does have False 9 plus and Half Winger plus. But you'd hope through future Evos, maybe get a box to box, a role plus or plus on him. He's not too hard to unlock either. I mean, you still have to do something for it, but the objective's not particularly crazy. I think it's just a nice option. Maybe not the most linkable is the only thing, but you do have the Cornerstones rarity to get him a bit of extra chemistry to start. So, yeah, I really like him. And for the, I actually forgot to say he's 5'11", so he's not small either. A good.
I think in the pre-season objectives in 25, I'm pretty sure there was a box-to-box evolution that you could unlock for doing something. And maybe it was by doing one of the Evos we got towards the end. And so if you have that coming in like a week or so's time, he could be a really good option because he's already, from GG rating, you can see he's 84 rated as box-to-box, and that's without like the role plus. So if you can add that role plus to him, and I'm looking at like 41% have chosen a hunter on him. Stop trying to play attackers that are clearly not attackers in attacking positions. He's not an attacker. He's definitely like someone to have in a midfield. If you're playing, I've seen a lot of like 4-1-4-1. I think even in the 4-4-2, I think this is the perfect kind of card, because you still need someone who can perform in the attacking third. Like, yeah, I think he's.
You know what, though? As a
very,
striker,
very
if you put a hunter on him there, real quick, Ben, as a striker, he would have banging dribbling, banging passing. He's got 𝘃𝗲𝗍𝘬𝘀𝘁, which you kind of need up front. He's got enforcer, which we're learning at the moment is really, really strong. That's a really good card for a striker. Doesn't have the pace, but as we know by Piña, you don't really need the pace. I look at that and I think, yeah, do you know what? That would do all right. I'm not saying like I would go out of my way to make him a striker. Maybe if I could get a shooting play style on him or something, perhaps. But somewhere down the line, a finesse shot plus or a low driven plus on him, he'd be so well rounded up front. He'd be hard to defend.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I feel like I've got a good endorsement for my pound for pound so far. So we can skip picking next week and we pick this week. But no, yeah, actually, we should get in the listener nomination before moving on, because it's another SBC actually. JKL was nominating Alyssa Thompson, the SBC. Coming in around 8K, you get a useful building block for WSL, US Women's National Team, and Chelsea squads. She has low-driven, technical, quick step, and first touch playstyles, which make her a handful for defenders. At the very least, she's got an excellent foundation for future EVOs. I feel like this is becoming such a cliche for all nominations at this point.
I don't know that 𝘃𝗍𝗯𝘀 can be an excellent foundation for anything personally, but we can keep going.
As well as certified gauntlet building block. In 15 weekend league games, she's put up 6 goals and 9 assists, including a couple of big goals to secure a late win en route to 11 wins. I might give a few other shout outs that people have sent in, because we have quite a few this week. So Ads was going for the Cornerstones Martin de Roon, and Maka had a few. Team of the week Stack, Robinson, and Ibanez. And yeah, Ibanez is someone who has a ridiculously high GG rating for his overall of 82. He's got 86.6 at defender, and he doesn't even have the plus actually at defender. He only has a regular defender. So he's got jockey, regular jockey, intercept, aerial fortress, and block, and quite a lot of other play styles. So yeah, and ridiculous pace. So
what does he do when he's got the ball though?
Yeah, like, he is shocking on the ball.
So he just punt it out of the field and hope for the best.
Yeah, it really is a test of play styles, that, isn't it? He's got long ball, but he has 34 vision and 45 long passing. So
Yeah, I don't know how that kind of works. Like, his short passing is way better than his long passing. So why did he get long ball pass? Is it because they kind of base it on how often the player plays those passes more than how good they are at them? Maybe it's just pinging it off the pitch all the time. But yeah, all right. Well, let's wrap up pound for pound and move on to talking about sort of other current content. And I guess the first thing is we haven't had your Nep so far on this podcast, and it'd be interesting to know from a strictly kind of content perspective, how have you found the start to the cycle with this apparently slower power curve?
Yeah, I'm like really, really enjoying it. And I do think not to like call anybody out, especially not a community or the community, but I think the community are massively misunderstanding the point of the SBCs and the objectives that we've had so far, because they're brilliant for the gauntlet, for the tournaments, for squad building. They're brilliant for evolutions. Like, the only thing they're not brilliant for is sweating it. And like, yeah, fair enough. But there's players out there that you can go and pick up for even reasonable prices to sweat it. I think like the chemistry boost that you get from the squad foundation players, from the cornerstone players. I don't know if the World Tour players have chemistry boost, but they're fun. And I think what EA have done this year that they didn't do, at least I don't remember them doing last year, is give them multiple positions with more roles than they ever have done before. And not every single player is garbage. Like that Trejo, for example, as an objective player, he's really good. Like, okay, there's a few maybe players that have the odd flaw here or there, but for the most part, these aren't players that you'd look at and be like, oh, well, they look all right. But then when you delve into their stats, you're like, oh, actually, this is why they're terrible. They're 2-star with no play styles. You're pointless. But I just think it's really good. And I really like the lower rated squads. I think they've missed the mark on a few of the SBCs with squad ratings that are too high. But for the most part, 80, 81, 82 rated squads with tradable packs back, and then a player that's half decent, what's not to love?
Yep. And actually, funny, as you were mentioning that, Josh has been going through the SBCs, but I really like that 𝗏𝗀𝘀𝘁 SBC. I think he's a little bit more premium in terms of his price compared to some of them, especially for a player who's maybe not from the most linkable nation, even though, club at Atletico is kind of good. But yeah, I used his base gold at the start of the cycle, and that was really good. He's just got like a really nice balance of stats, and is really good on the ball as well. And I think, yeah, we've talked about it a few times on the podcast, and I think we've mentioned it on this episode, but 𝘍𝘁𝑰 is just so good. I think it's basically like a must on your centre backs if you don't have, and maybe fullbacks to a lesser extent. It's not as common there either, but it's just so good. And he has 𝘚ncipated and 𝘍𝘁𝑰, which is just a really nice combination. Good defensive awareness as well. And I don't know if people have been looking out for that. They've done this thing this year where the tackle animations, you get more tackle animations above 85 standing tackle. And I think that's something to look out for as well. He has 85 without a chemistry boost, actually. But the chemistry boost will, help you over that threshold, right, in some cases. So it's kind of worth looking at that, because I think Shadow gives +3 standing tackle, but Anchor gives +6 for Anchor? So that could actually tip you over that point, and in some cases it's going to be worth just sacrificing a little bit of the pace for that, for sure.
How many more different animations do you think we get based on different stats elsewhere that we just don't know about?
Well, yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I know there's one for marking, because they've mentioned this in previous pitch notes, which is something to do with double marking, and I remember it being mentioned before. I think that was around 80 or 85, that if you get above that for defensive awareness, then they have like improved kind of relational positioning to the other centre backs, something like that. So there are definitely others, but yeah, as always, it's just a mystery for a lot of these things. We'll talk more about this kind of stuff on the Gameplay podcast, and we can move on. Actually, Josh, let's move on to. Is there anything else kind of in terms of SBCs or player content we've had that you wanted to kind of highlight?
It might be something to do with the longer discussion, but it is probably worth talking about the fact we got Kylian Mbappe as a Player of the Month SBC. Like a good card. He'll get into most people's squads. Probably like worth highlighting that the main change between the Player of the Month and his base gold card is he's got Rapid instead of Quick Step as his playstyle plus. This year, I don't know which one I prefer. That Nico Williams with Rapid feels very, very quick, and it doesn't feel quite as heavy as I think it has done in especially last year. I felt like Rapid was quite a heavy play style.
Yeah,
but that I don't know. Like when it gets to close control, is it better to have Quick Step? I feel like Quick Step doesn't really ping as much when I'm on the ball. But yeah, I mean. It's a ridiculous card, and it's insane we've got it this early. And I think maybe after the first break we should probably talk about what we think of the price of it, and whether people should be complaining about the fact that they can't complete it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, because it is a common point of discussion around these high-priced SBCs, and it's fair to say having one this big this early doesn't always happen. So yeah, we'll come back to that right after this break. Hello, and in this break, a quick reminder that the pod is made possible by supporters. The pod didn't used to be weekly. Yes, FUT Weekly wasn't actually weekly for a time. And then someone suggested setting up the Patreon. And since then, the pod has been weekly. And in fact, it's been twice weekly, because there is that supporter episode every single week. So if you'd like to catch that episode and keep the podcast going, it's just £3 a month to do so. And you get loads in return. And there are perks higher than that, including access to the Discord too. So if you're interested and would like to support the podcast, then head over and search support FUT Weekly. Go to Patreon, and it's very easy to sign up. If you are a supporter keeping the podcast going, then a huge thank you for doing so. And if you do consider supporting, a huge thank you too. Right, let's jump back into the pod. Hello, welcome back after the break. So, the big topic, as Josh trailed just before we had the break, is the Mbappe SBC. Remember, you can send in your own big topics to the podcast at FUT Weekly Pod on X/Twitter, FUTweekly@mail.com, pod priority questions in the supporter Discord for gold or icon supporters. Actually, Josh, I guess you've framed this as the big topic, or that was what you put down as your big topic this week. Is that because of just the reaction, as you alluded to before the break, that we've had from the community?
Yeah, I think anytime you get a 4 million, which is what it was when it first came out, a 4 million coin SBC in week 3 of the game is probably a fairly big topic to talk about. But I think it kind of captures like a whole host of different aspects of like how content has been, laid out to begin with at the beginning of the game. Like, you've got the power curve and the way that that's been set out. So therefore, a player of the month, where usually it kind of didn't matter how expensive the player of the month was, you could grind towards it in some way. It feels like this is ungrindable towards, and that then relates to the fact that rewards have been nerfed a little bit. And then it kind of feeds into a community discussion about, should we be able to grind towards these kinds of players at this stage of the game? Is that even good for the game? Like, what is it that people want? I tweeted on, I think the day that the SBC came out, I said, if only EA could come up with a way to allow you to complete an SBC, but none of the people you play against, maybe everyone will be happy. Because that seems to be what they want to have Mbappe. They don't want their opponent and every opponent they play to have Mbappe. And there's no way to balance that, really. You have to kind of leave it down to luck, or leave it down to people spending money. And so then there's that aspect of the argument as well, that people are annoyed that this seems to be only there for people who are going to spend money on the game. And quite frankly, I think if you spend enough money to complete this Mbappe and make the decision to sink all of those tradable coins into a player of the month Mbappe, you should allow people to do that, because letting people make their own mistakes is kind of, a business's prerogative, right? I don't know, like, for me, I just think it captures a lot of aspects. I think there's a lot of interesting discussion points of the way that people view the game, view SBCs like this, how kind of tied behind their back like the hands are of EA when it comes to player of the months, because I don't think anyone could argue Mbappe didn't deserve it, right? Like, he's been unbelievable to begin this year. So yeah, like, I don't know. I think it'd be good to kind of get NepentheZ's view on it, because it's a pretty insane SBC and insane card. I do think the packs back are quite good, but
yeah, the packs back are good. I think first of all, I echo everything you kind of said there about the community and what they want. Like, everyone wants great pack luck until they come up against an insane team. Then they're like, oh, how's this guy packed all these players? But in terms of the SBC, I don't know how licensing would allow this, but I think EA have missed a brilliant opportunity to engage the whole community in this Player of the Month SBC. They could, like, especially the fact that we've got the Silver World Tour cards, they could have easily made one of the segments a silver Mbappe, hugely like scaled down, and then another one of the segments like an 80 rated Mbappe, and then another one an 86 rated Mbappe, so you can kind of like go and complete some of the other ones, and you can make them still expensive, because even an 80 rated Mbappe would still need to be chunky in price, but it could give people the opportunity that would have never been able to have an Mbappe, that might have been looking forward to this, thinking, oh, I can grind towards this, see it coming out, not being able to grind it, to be like, oh, do you know what? Let me go and get the silver Mbappe. Let me just go and put, I don't know, an 86 rated squad in, get that silver Mbappe that's absolutely terrible, 3-star, but someone they can now have, use, evo, and enjoy. I think EA missed a trick there. In terms of the actual SBC, yeah, even with the packs back, if you're spending FC points to get cards to complete this SBC, you will make more coins than it's worth, and might as well just buy the gold card and have that, and then sell that later down the line. But yeah, I think because EA is stuck, and I think we're going to see it with Haaland, who's most likely going to win the Prem. I don't know if that's been announced yet or not. It might be on Friday. And I think there was another player that's coming, isn't there? Is it Bundesliga? Are we getting like a Harry Kane, who might not be like the most elite? But I just think there's an opportunity within the season to give us some more silver versions. Like I said, I don't know how licensing would allow it, but I think they could have done more with it for sure.
I mean, we've seen flashback versions, right, that are lower rated.
Yeah.
So I'd be surprised if it causes too much of an issue licensing wise, because also, if they wanted to rate Mbappe at 74 rated because they just didn't think he was very good last year, they'd be allowed to do that as well. Do you know what I mean? So I wonder if but it might be the Player of the Month licensing, right? That it has to be a boosted card.
That would still be there, though. Do you know what I mean? That the Player of the Month would still be there.
Mm.
Yeah. I wonder if I don't know, like, because the way that I look at it, the silver cards may be slightly different, but I think if you start giving people like an 80 to 86 rated version, either it's going to be so good that everybody uses them, or it's not going to be good enough. It's going to be very difficult to find that middle ground. And I don't think either one of those necessarily is a great choice. I don't mind if they're not very good, but just gives people an Mbappe that they can use if they want to. Like that, I've had the chance to use him, but have you really if his stats aren't there? Like, you're literally just using the likeness of a player in the game at that point. I don't know. I do think that this early probably needs to be juggled with a little bit differently. I saw a lot of people talk about the fact that we had an Mbappe this early, I think 2 years ago, and it wasn't even close to this early. It was like end of November that Mbappe came out. Like, it was nowhere near like 3 weeks into the game. And the game does look so different by the time you're into late November. In fact, I think he came out over Black Friday weekend, which obviously is that first power curve push and is a time when you get lots of packs, and there's usually like the first really decent grind comes for the menus. So yeah, I kind of respect what they've done with this, which is essentially make it so expensive that if you're not spending money, you aren't completing it. And if you are spending money, you probably shouldn't complete it. So anyone who you play who has him, you kind of just go, fair enough. I doubt your decision making now.
Yeah, it might be good for you in this game, but longer term, you've probably messed up. Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think it's not maybe. I always find these basically with these really expensive SBCs. For me personally, I'm always like, the more expensive, the more unattainable, the better. Like, I'm not going to do it, so just make it really hard for other people to get it. And I think it's a funny one, because on the other hand, you're like, well, then they're just releasing content that nobody can do, or that very few people are going to do, and what's the point of doing that? But I mean, this is something they're committing to because of the real life connection with the game, and I think sometimes we kind of have to accept that can lead to some weirdness with how they're going to release content, obviously, but we obviously want that connection with the real game, and things like Nep suggested, where you can have sort of like a lesser version released at the same time, I think is a nice way to handle that potentially, and maybe something for them to look to in future, because this does happen quite frequently with Player of the Month, where the sort of like it is out of step with the power curve, but there's not too much they can do about that, really, to some extent. And
if they're obliged to release it, there is that they're like, this is the only, they have to release the content still, but can do it in a way where it doesn't really affect the game. It's just something that people talk about. Yeah. I mean, if we get, say, like a party bag SBC for Black Friday, that's like, all of the SBC cards from the first month of the game, I'm sure people won't be complaining about the fact that they still release this then, because even if the chance of you getting him is very small, lots of people will complete that party bag hoping that they get Player of the Month Mbappe. So, it doesn't mean that this card is completely useless. It can still be something that's opened up further down the line.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I was actually going to make the point, which I was thinking about the other week, as we spoke about, who was it? Who's the Arsenal SBC, the Arsenal midfielder that we had recently? ዙbimendi, that was it. Yeah, and a friend of mine who's an Arsenal fan was complaining that it feels like they always overprice Arsenal SBCs, knowing that people are running Arsenal teams. And like, I wonder if that is true. There's certain like players, certain clubs that they just know people will complete those SBCs, kind of no matter price to some extent.
I don't know. I don't know how powerful Arsenal like followers are in the game, really. Like, obviously I've got my little community and echo chamber of people that also run lots of Arsenal teams, but I don't know how wide it goes for the general public. But I found that ዙbimendi SB to be like extortionate. He's not that great in game either. Like, I was really disappointed. I was hoping that EA knew something about like his stats or his play styles to the point where he'd be amazing, and that's why it was priced as such. But you look at 𝘃𝗲𝘀𝘀, who's 87 rated, she's like 25k coins, and she's just a much better player, or 30k coins now, and yeah, she's just much better. She's got better stats, better play styles, like just all round better, and she's a fraction of the price and would be tradable. And it was one of the few SBCs that I thought they got wrong. But yeah, in terms of Arsenal SBCs, like thinking back on it now, I think we had a Havertz either last year or the year before that was really expensive. We've had a few. Every time Arsenal icons or heroes get SBCs, they are always chunky in price. And so, yeah, I wonder if EA just know that they'll be able to like sting people when it comes to like Arsenal or even top teams, Real Madrid and such. But yeah, I did 𝘬𝘯𝘰 through gritted teeth for sure.
I think Arsenal have. They're with PES, aren't they? I think they've got an exclusive license agreement with PES, or at least had done. And I just wonder if that's affected the relationship in any way. And it would be so underhanded and petty, but you know, like there is every potential. Like even I think the playstyle selection of a lot of the Arsenal cards is
they're awful.
Bananas.
They're like, awful. Yeah,
Saka. I don't know that I've necessarily seen him put in that many crosses. So Whip Pass Plus is such a bizarre playstyle to give him. It's like, yeah, I don't know. Weird.
How he doesn't have first touch or press proven. Oh, man.
Yeah.
And then you show me Ibanez, who has like 5 defensive playstyles. And I'm like, what is happening, man?
Yeah, it is kind of wild. I think, yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess Saliba's kind of maybe good enough for everyone else. So yeah, he's really good. But sorry, let's put a slight tangent there onto the Arsenal topic. But maybe actually we've spoken about Mbappe a fair bit, but the other major thing that happened over the last week is champs. Josh, I'd say, and obviously we'll talk about it on the gameplay podcast. But in terms of the impact it has around content, we have really seen some significant kind of changes in the market, and we're kind of seeing, I guess, a new pattern in terms of the way the week goes by from a market perspective as well as a result of that.
Yeah, like maybe it's slightly early to necessarily think that it's a pattern just yet,
true.
but it did seem like prices went up into Friday. People started playing champs, rewards started coming out, and then prices absolutely crashed on Saturday. They kind of recovered a little bit yesterday, but there's still a lot that's down. It did feel like, I kind of called out 𝗵𝘀𝘀 earlier, but 𝘂𝑪𝑎𝑚𝑠 also up, and I think that's probably just trying to get that strong link there. And she is very good as well. But a lot of those cards that you looked at that were maybe like upper hundreds, like 200,000 coins, like 𝘵𝑎𝑐 specifically, he's on the front page. Like, you look at the drop in those prices over the last week, and especially coming into this weekend where it's like kind of losing 20-30% of the price. I think a lot of people bought their team for champs, played champs, then went to sell their team and realized all of the coins they'd made from champs they'd lost in their team. And it is a difficult thing. That first weekend is always massive because it's the biggest influx of coins into the market, even with reduced rewards. It's like a massive influx of new players. And I was looking at like the kind of 13, 14, 15 win rewards, and just unbelievable rewards. Like lots of people getting really, really good rewards. In fact, to the point where there has been a lot of complaints about rewards in the weeks leading up to champs, of people saying like, you know, what's the point of playing if rewards aren't good enough? No point in playing squad battles. No point in playing rivals. The rewards are crap. Like, And then we get to champs where the rewards felt pretty good, to be honest. Like, obviously there's still pack luck involved, but especially up at that top level, I didn't see many dud sets of rewards, and it brought the price down of everything. And everyone goes, well, what's the point of having good rewards if everything's worth nothing? It's like, well, again, you can't have both worlds, right? It has to either be you get lucky and you get a lot of coins, or everybody has good pack luck and it's just not worth a lot of coins. Like, it can't be in between. So yeah, it's been an interesting weekend from like a market perspective. You know, as I say, I think 𝗵𝘀𝘀 is probably the biggest winner. You know, it was interesting as well. I was looking at 𝘭𝘪𝘬�𝘏𝑎𝑙𝑑𝑒 because I think he's probably one of the best kind of mid-range left backs in the game. I think if you're not going for like Theo Hernandez or an icon or something better than that, then I think he's probably the next best option. But he's had a special card this week, and so out of packs, that price has gone up as well. So, you know, like, Yeah, it's been interesting. I think the market crash was maybe slightly over-egged. I think there was a lot of panic of people like trying to sell their teams because suddenly everything was going down. And then on Sunday, it kind of comes back up again with a mix of having like squad battles rewards that introduce some coins and some more players into the market. But also, I think prices just got so good that people decided to spend. So yeah, like I think there's still lots of really good budget options for players, but I think we are beginning to see a kind of meta-ish team coming out now. Like it has to include _𝘂𝘂. Defenders-wise, I think there are some defenders that are quite popular that aren't very good, but I also think it massively depends on your defensive play style. Like, if you're someone who likes to control defenders a lot, I don't think Van Dijk is very good at all this year. But if you're somebody who likes to leave your defenders and just control midfielders, he's unbelievable because he's just got perfect positioning. He's always in the right spot. He's an absolute wall. So, there's a lot of kind of give and take, I think, with some of those players. But yeah, I don't know. I know the market's lower this year than it was last year. I do think that's probably because there's not as many coins floating around this year as there was last year, and it's not just a case of like, oh well, the market's oversupplied or the power curve's dead. I think it's just that coins are harder to come by, and so therefore that top of the power curve it can't be driven by the amount of coins that people have because no one has any.
Yeah, I always remember when they did those placement rewards. I can't remember what FIFA it was, but they just gave a load of coins out once you placed. Basically gave you the rewards for each division you would have gone through. And the market was just like so high, like instantly, because everyone had loads of coins. There wasn't that much supply of players. And I think people kind of forget that like the amount of coins people are getting actually influences prices quite significantly. It's not like just disinterest or people not wanting to buy actually offered. It's just like, yeah, if people have coins, those prices are going to go up. And yeah, I mean, but the other side of that is obviously the supply, and we did see quite a lot of supply over this weekend, which is why things have dropped off. But yeah, it's kind of good. I mean, in many ways, as someone who's running the road to glory, I've got a lot more options for the team now because prices have like halved over the last week. But yeah, how have you found the sort of balance of rewards this cycle? Because it certainly has been a bit different. I mean.
Yes, it's been different
as such, but
yeah, they did, and again, the community. I say the community because not there's a lot of people in the community, and they will have very different opinions. But the community are like, oh my god, the rewards are terrible. It's like you asked for it, like quite literally. You asked for the power curve to be reduced. But I have been more lucky this year at the start of the game cycle in my pack luck than I genuinely can remember. Right, I have packed some of the best players. I've got 𝘂𝘂𝘂, Mbappe. I packed 𝘂𝘅𝘂𝗏 out of my hero pack, which is like unreal because he's unreal. I got 𝘱𝗡𝗏 out of the icon pack, and although he's not like one of the elite ones, he's still very good. I've packed like about 600,000 coins worth of tradable players from my rewards, and Squad Battles Elite 1 has been very, very kind. Like, yeah, I got a Patry and a �ґ𝑚 cornerstones like a couple of days ago. And so what I don't think is that less packs means less luck. And I think that's what people kind of think. But what I also think is that because the power curve isn't being pushed, even next week or the week after, if you hit a Patry, that's still going to be 70 or 80k. That's still going to be very, very good. Whereas last year, she'd be like 12k by now, and hitting a Patry would be completely worthless. So I think it's just, we've been so used to and conditioned over the last 2 or 3 years of just give, that everything became worthless, and people just kind of got what they wanted. That now that I feel like you earn now. Okay, maybe it's luck a little bit, but even the match coins from the extra 4 games of squad battles, all of the tournaments and the gauntlet that's there now, like my match coins must be in the hundreds of thousands already because I've just played so many games, because there's always so much to play for. So it's countered a lot by things like the gauntlet packs or the tournament packs or the bounties in rivals. Like, there are still ways to obtain lots of packs, and I think it's a brilliant thing that it's not just from champs and rivals reward days specifically.
Yeah, you make a good point about players actually just kind of being worth something, and the players that are sort of more packable are still worth something. I mean, 𝘧𝘀 is still 10k, and I mean he is really good, but that is surprising for a player who's as supplied as him, right? But yeah, well, I guess that's the thing. He's not being quite as supplied as he was last cycle, basically, and so that's why you're seeing it, which is nice. I think it feels more like the kind of FIFA days, I suppose, rather than the last 2 cycles. And actually, you mentioned Gauntlet, and I guess we've also had knockout tournaments and things like that. I know that was something that you're looking forward to, Nat, but how have you found that over the last 2 weeks? Like, has it been a good addition?
Loved it. Helps that I've managed to win everything, because I've not been the best at the game this year so far. But no, it's everything I play for. I was actually sitting here now thinking, like, damn, I haven't entered the tournament yet today. Obviously, like, we got a few days to win it, but I want to win it both times. And so I'm sitting there thinking, like, I've got some squads to build now. I've got some gameplay to go and grind out. I'm looking forwards to going and getting involved in a tournament. Whereas last year, come Monday, I'd been sitting there going, well, what the hell do I do? Like what can I do? I've done everything. But now I'm like, right, the tournament's going to be there. Do I go for a new team? Do I try and put in some of these new... I'm actually going to complete 𝘃𝘀𝘀𝘀 and use him today, because I do think he looks brilliant. And I think, again, like when I talk about the kind of people misunderstanding some of these SBCs, like the tournament that's there today is a max overall 84 squads and only 186 higher rated player, which means once you bronze bench, because you can at the moment, someone like 𝘃𝘀𝘀𝘀 and then Mahrez on the other side, or Cristiano Ronaldo up front, or Ibanez at centre-back, 𝘃𝘀𝘀𝘀 is going to feel like Mbappe in champs, because compared to the 83, 84, 80 defenders you are likely to come up against, he is head and shoulders above them. So I really like tournaments for the fact that I can experiment with players that I genuinely like using and not feel handicapped doing it.
Yeah, and like I even think with tournaments. So, like, full disclosure, I'm probably not going to play champs this weekend, and there's a part of me that feels like I might just not play champs at all. Mainly just because I don't think I would enjoy it or have a good time. And whilst I can't get my brain to the point where I think I would enjoy it, I'm not going to put myself through it. But there's also so many other areas of the game where I can enjoy it, where I can go and play games that I would enjoy playing. And the tournaments are one of them. So, like, if you win the tournament that's there now, that, I think most people will be able to, just with the number of entries that you've got, the number of days you can enter, you then get qualified for the tournament finale that comes at the end of the week. So I just think those patterns of play, and then we'll get to next Sunday and we'll get Gauntlet again, and we'll have Gauntlet for another few days. I think those kind of patterns are really interesting. I would kind of like literally a daily knockout tournament that's just 1 entry per day to a knockout tournament, and just change the squad requirements every single day. And it's, just have the winner get a 7.5k pack. It doesn't need to be massive, but just something that's like fun, that's there every single day if you just want to go and kind of have a like casual run at a tournament that doesn't really matter that much. So yeah, like I'm a big fan of those things. With Gauntlet, I think it was maybe a little bit... I don't know that 1 entry per day was necessarily perfect. I'd maybe have preferred it to have been a few more entries and then just bump the win requirements for the overall objective. And I don't think they should have hidden 𝘂𝘂𝘀 behind the win 3, because if you do want to get I've never enjoyed having player cards behind like the top level, like winning all 3 Gauntlet games. Like, it should have just been win 3 matches over the entire time of the Gauntlet, and then you get 𝘂𝘂𝘀𝘀. And then if you don't get him, that's unfortunate. Yeah, but
he wasn't even that good either. Like, I mean,
yeah. But although I did see him, I've seen him in a lot of teams. I've been watching people play champs this weekend. He's been popping up left, right, and centre. So
yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, he is right wing inside forward ++, and right mid inside forward ++, which is quite nice. Like, I think in terms of that element, he's good. But yeah, he just doesn't. I don't know. I guess his dribbling is good, but it's the 3-star week for it that kind of concerns me a little bit.
You've inspired an idea now. I'm going to go into the tournament today with my Durán card, my Kudus cards, like all of the winners' cards. I'm just going to go in, like, they're going to be in my team. The first person who's going to come up against is going to be livid, thinking I'm a pro or something of that description.
Yeah, get the badges on as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, we've been talking about Gauntlet and things. I think one of the things that has been interesting is the matchmaking element of that, and I think it's something that maybe we could cover briefly after the break, because it is interesting to consider the difference versus, say, live FUT friendlies and things like that. So yeah, we'll take a break. We'll be back just after this. Hello, welcome back after the break. So yeah, it does feel different. I know last cycle we had this sort of form-based live FUT friendlies thing, which was across all friendlies basically. Like it existed, like no matter what friendly you're playing, whether it was Golden Goal or whatever mode, whatever event they had on, it was sort of across that, and it kind of worked like Champs does, where you get one win and then you have +1 form, and then you match people on +1 form, etc., or they try to match you with that. So it's different this cycle, but it works differently for the different events. I guess simple for the knockouts, Josh, it's just you're matching people in the same round. But for Gauntlet, how does that work? Because yeah, I felt personally like the matchmaking for Gauntlet felt a lot easier actually than, say, live FUT friendlies last cycle, or even the tournaments actually. So yeah, it'd be interesting to know how that functions.
Yeah, so like I think there was a lot of confusion about Gauntlet from everywhere to begin with, because I remember the first time we heard about Gauntlet, I think it was on a stream with Nate, and they said that it was like you tried to win as many games, then if you lost, you claimed your rewards. Whereas then it became like, okay, actually you're going to play all of the games, and then it's how many wins you get in that. But I think the confusion was around, I think people thought if they were playing their first game, they'd match up someone else playing their first game. If they were playing their second game, they'd match up somebody else playing their second game. But the matchmaking is actually based on win form. So if you've got one win, then you will play somebody else who has one win, whether they're in their first game or their third game. Or sorry, whether in their second game or their third game. You can't be in your first game with one win, can you? But it was why if you like, there was a glitch. It's probably worth pointing out that if you dashboarded, it didn't reset your daily entries to the Gauntlet, so you were able to just go again. And so what would happen was, you first game of the Gauntlet on the final 2 days, effectively, unless you came up against someone else who was also playing their first game of the Gauntlet, you were being given a win as people were dashboarding because they couldn't now get to those 3 wins. So like, you know, the win for matchmaking essentially made it that the only time you would play someone who is 2-0 would be if you were also 2-0. So one of you was going to win the Gauntlet and one of you was going to lose it, which considering my 2 opponents I got when I went 3-0 in it, is quite surprising. But I think that the difference is, like with tournament matchmaking, for example, tournament matchmaking is going to be 4 rounds, and you're going to be playing someone who has won every single round up to then. So, you know, as you progress through each round, the chances of you playing someone who just got lucky in their matchmaking decreases each time. You know, and then you comparing it to last year where it was based on like a win form thing. And I kind of tried to think of it like Champs win form, like if you imagine like plus or minus 15. And so if you got to that point of winning kind of 15 more games than you lost in friendlies last year, you were just playing against other people who had won 15 more friendlies than they lost. And it just like everybody who was even just average at the game and was winning as much as they were losing, you would never match up against them, which is why sometimes if you switch to old gen, you'd go into a friendly and go, God, this is insanely easy, because you had no win form on old gen. So yeah, like I do think the changes to friendlies is improved. You know, I think I don't necessarily know that they've achieved the reduction in white knuckle gaming, which is something that was said quite a lot in the pitch notes before Ultimate Team came out. I think that will get better. I think we're still in like a testing phase. I do think Gauntlet will probably have more entries next time we see it, rather than just the one.
2. Yeah.
It's 2 now. Okay, so and there'll probably objectives that require you to win a little bit more as well. But I just think that will help. That will help, especially towards the end of the week, as people have kind of got all of the objectives done. It might make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, because it's worth saying, you know, most people listening to this podcast will be above average Ultimate Team players, right? That's very likely. I mean, and actually probably in the kind of upper tier of players, even though they probably don't see themselves as being particularly, you know, top tier at the game, actually in terms of the general Ultimate Team population, they are going to be. So for some players, for those kinds of players, they're probably going to get more wins than losses, and therefore in an open matchmaking scenario is, you know, something that actually is quite fun to some extent for those upper end players. But I guess they have to consider that it can cannibalize itself, which has happened before, where you basically get people not wanting to bother going in because they're in that kind of lower echelon of players and they're just not going to get the wins, or it's going to take them a long time to get the wins. And so those players drop out, and then you end up with just the top, most competitive players, which is kind of what happened to draft, which I know you're a big fan of.
Yeah. Oh man, drafters. I'm already having flashbacks, and it only happened last week. So I don't know, man. Like draft has been awful, a genuinely awful experience, and I think mostly because the rewards for round 1 and round 2 were atrocious. I don't know if it was on purpose and me crying every day about it fixed it, or if it was by mistake and they've just fixed it. But in the last couple of days, they have remedied it, and you now get good rewards for losing in round 1. I say good rewards. It's a silver players pack, a silver pack, and a gold pack. It's good enough, and probably actually like really helps towards getting your coins back, and should hopefully allow a lot more people now to come back into the draft and engage in that, because what they got right in the draft this year is icons and heroes are in there from day one, and they're very, very common. And it's like, I will never have the chance to play with Cruyff, but I played with him, every third draft he shows up for me, which is very good because Cruyff is Cruyff, but it's also very bad because I'm bad and I can't use Cruyff very well. So I feel like I'd be better off with just a gold card, but no, I think, people are very good at the game, and I like the changes in the tournament matchmaking and the gauntlet matchmaking. But I think, as Josh said, and again, this is where I come to a community thing again. People want that relaxed gaming, but only to suit them. They just want to come up against players that are way worse than them so that they can have a good time. And so what happens is, like, we saw it with the one tournament or the one event that they put out where it was unlimited games. It was just gold and goal everywhere. And it's like, it's genuinely pointless, because people are going in with like 12 chemistry teams with like some bronze cards and silver cards because they just don't care. It's all about just winning the game or getting that first goal and then backing out if you don't, and getting somebody else back out if you do. And so there is no middle ground at the moment of just having a fun experience playing the game. And I don't think EA, I don't think there's like a mechanic that they can use that will engage the community to not either go way down the bottom end and just give away wins, or sweat really, really hard. They're in a really difficult scenario, a really difficult position to find that. But with that being said, I think they've got it as close as they can get it by separating all of the different live events, or what they call them, not live events, all the different events from each other in terms of form and things like that. I think seeded matchmaking is great because you can get to the semi-final or the final of a tournament and play against no one particularly skilled if they just happen to have also really favourable matchmaking. So yeah, I think I don't really know where the point was going, but I think they're getting it better, because like last year, for example, like when we got the, do you remember the actual golden goal thing they gave us last year? People were going in there and losing 20 games on purpose because they got out of the game straight away because they just conceded a goal and it deaded the game, and it just brought their win form down across all friendlies. And I'm sitting there playing against these sweats, and some guys are going, "Oh, I just lost 30 games in golden goal, mate. I'm playing against people with no thumbs." I'm like, "You bastard!" Like, sorry for swearing. I'm like, you are the reason why we can't have good things, So yeah, I think they've done a good job of it, a really good job.
Yep. And they'll keep adjusting, I'm sure. They'll have the data, they'll see, how the engagement's going and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's been a big thing for them, right? Is like doing this for the first time, having the ability to tweak these things frequently and not be tied to some overall matchmaking system, and they can kind of pick and choose how they want to go forward with it, which I think is how you'd want it to be. So we'll see how things shift and change moving forward. We should move on to EVOs. We haven't really talked about them. It has been a new EVO approach this cycle, and maybe as an overall question for you, Nep. As we've already said, first time on the podcast this cycle, how are you finding the sort of smaller upgrade approach to evolutions? Yeah,
I really, really like it. I like, as with anything, I just wish there was more of it. I think it's +1 physical. It doesn't do much. Do you know what I mean? You don't feel any changes in your players. And so, I was talking about it on a video just a couple of days ago, actually, because they are, again, in a bit of a tricky situation, because I'm sure they could give you 10 cycles of the +1 physical, but then people will just, because it doesn't give an overall rating, people will just manipulate it and create these, completely imbalanced cards. and that's not the point. So I understand why they're kind of like keeping it really, really low, but it's just yes, it's a bit fewer. It's really hard as well to like track what I know you could do it on like GG or like whatever, but if you forget to put those first ones in and stuff, it's just really hard to track what you've done on who. And that's where I think they need something in game to say, just to tell you the path you've had, because I want to be able to plan out my EVOs. And because there's so many EVOs now, which I don't think should be a bad thing, but it kind of is. There's almost too much to be like, right, how do you get your head around it? Like, it's an absolute like mind bender to try and plan out the order with which you want to do your EVOs.
It is interesting because, Josh, one thing I've been asking people, because I've been interested, is like how many EVOs, like what is the max EVOs that you've done in sort of one hit? Like, you know, because at the moment you can see paths of like 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, even more evolutions on a player who's like 78 rated, right? So we've not really had that before. And I think people are quite put off by that, actually. They might see this path that looks pretty good, but it just seems so overwhelming, even though they're often one game evolutions, or they're maybe even instant evolutions. Some of them apply straight away. And it is kind of interesting. It is a different approach, and I think people haven't quite got their heads around the fact that this is how, you know, we need to approach evolutions this cycle. But also, actually, maybe that you need to be less concerned about sort of finessing a path when actually, you know, they're quite open evolutions, and so therefore you can just kind of complete the ones you maybe fancy doing, and then see where to go from there.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair to say we like, I mean, just with GG, we've been looking at evolutions, and I have a player in my Dongong squad, and I think he's got 1.5 million potential paths right now.
Which is
like,
wild, yeah.
And the longest one is something like 22 different evolutions, something ridiculous like that, because you've got repeatable EVOs, you've got the reward EVOs from the season pass, from objectives that are all incremental upgrades. And I actually think probably the problem we're having is where we started with EVOs to where we are now with them, which is that when we started, it was about if you could chain 2 EVOs together, it was like insane, because you would just get this wild boost to your cards, because there was no stat limits. There was no, like, it was just, can you get one to go into one that then perfectly fits into the next one? And so it was all about really trying to finesse it and don't overboost and all this kind of stuff. With the way that EVOs are now, that's like little and hopefully very often, it's probably more just throw it on to somebody, just give it to somebody. Don't, like, as long as you've got a general theme. I think if you're chasing the meta, EVOs won't be for you really that much this year. There might be the odd one that like gets you and is decent, but I think really, if you're someone who's going, I want to build this squad or I want to build that squad, I do think the number of EVOs will allow you to build multiple different EVO squads this year. Like, if you're doing an Arsenal squad, I think you'd also be able to do, say, an England squad if you want to kind of build up to the World Cup. Like, I think you'll be able to do multiple of them because there are so many. But yeah, if you're trying to like go, what's the best path for my player? I mean, right now there's just too many. There is far, far too many of them. And you could spend all of the current EVOs to make one player half decent, like if you've got a kind of low-rated player, or you could just slowly, incrementally build up an entire squad of players by, you know, giving a player a playstyle that they're missing, giving them a role that you'd like to play them in. I do think last night's EVO was probably worth saying. I know it was free, Sideline Rise, which was a silver boosting EVO. I think it missed the mark pretty spectacularly. I don't think I've seen a single player from it that looks 83 rated. You know, and so if they were, I think, 68 rated or higher, they're going to 83 rated, and that's due to a number of things. The fact that it's only +10 in passing and +6 in shooting, but a +15 overall, means that you have to have really high technical stats before you put them into this in order for it to kind of like at least even get them close. But also, they're stat limited at 78 passing and 80 shooting, which for an 83 rated overall, it isn't that great. And it just felt like one of those that it might be really good on like the 50 rated bronze cards, just because it's you're going to get all of those boosts and it's not going to increase the rating too high. But I don't know. There's elements of EVOs that I'm a little bit worried about right now. You know, like charging 7,500 coins for rapid base playstyle. I don't think coins are plentiful enough that those kinds of things make sense. And then, we talked about, I've actually seen people who say this is a good thing, but the cosmetic evolutions, we got the 50,000 coin Evo for cornerstones. And yeah, it helps you in terms of chemistry, but 50,000 coins for no boost to the player at all, and for a design that you could very easily lose if you put them into, the sideline right evolution changes their card design. So I don't know. I think this is the path that Evo should go down. I just think we're now going to have another year of feeling out what's the right way to go about it, instead of it being refined, which I think it should have been by now in its third year.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because I do worry that maybe there isn't the hype around Evos because these are much smaller incremental boosts, and I certainly see it in terms of running FUT.gg content stuff, that people are not engaged with evolutions because they're not seeing these shiny big upgrades that we used to have. And I think that is a concern for people just kind of switching off evolutions because of that, whereas actually the idea is, and I think maybe the approach people should take if they're kind of feeling overwhelmed, is just look at what's expiring soon, look at the squad you're currently playing, and just apply. If it doesn't boost that overall, don't even think about it. Just apply it to a player you're currently using, and don't let it go to waste, essentially. And when you're applying a boost to a player who's already upgraded, who's not going to get an overall increase, unless it's a playstyle, because obviously there's playstyle limits, you can just go for it. Just do it. It's not don't overthink it. Just go for it. And I think you'll benefit from that. And the other thing says that roles, they don't seem to ever have limits on. So you can just go for it and put plus or plus plus onto a player. They don't tend to cap, or they've never really capped Evos, I think, since the start of last cycle on roles. So yeah, I think that's quite a handy thing. Like that classic 10 Evo that gives the classic 10 plus. Sure, it's not an amazing role, but just apply it to someone, because why not? If you've got a cam you're using, you can just stick it on that player, and it could be helpful at some point. So yeah,
I did find it strange that the classic 10 was only repeatable twice and to a maximum 82 rated player. I'm like, what are they worried about? What are they scared of?
That role plus is going to change the game at a top level.
Yeah, that's completely true. Nep, any Evos you wanted to kind of shout out that you think have been good or worth people checking out before we?
No, you literally hit the nail on the head. I've been so disengaged with Evos this year because I'm finding it hard to kind of get my mind around what I want to do and who I want to put it on. That I've barely even done an Evo in my squad. I've done a few of the little plus ones because they were expiring. I did the one that expired yesterday or the day before for 30k on the only Arsenal player that I had that fit. And then outside of that, I've probably got about 30 Evos there that I could do. And I'm just not, and there's no real reason why I'm not. They do fit players that I want to put them on. I'm just not drawn to them this year as much. I don't know why.
There is another minor thing that I have a problem with about this, is that there's a lot more admin involved now, right? You have to take, if it's only one game Evo, you got to put the player in, you got to take them out, you got to put them in the next one and take them out. Whereas before it was a bigger boost and you could just sit with that player in your team for a bit. And also often I'd forget, I won't remember that I've completed the evolution. I'll go into the next game and then I've played a game where I could have had them in the next Evo, that sort of thing. So I do think there's a bit of extra friction because the system wasn't necessarily built for this in a way, which maybe is something for them to look at. Probably not this cycle, but next cycle if they want to continue doing this. But yeah, I think that's where we'll wrap up. We've been talking for a while. I covered some interesting topics. And as always, if there are any topics people want discussed on this content podcast, whether they're the big topic or just other things to talk about, then definitely send those in. We're going to go record the gameplay podcast. Nep will be on that. If you're a supporter, you can listen to that podcast. If you're not already a supporter, you can go and support. Just search support FUT Weekly and you get an extra podcast every single week. There'll be links in the description too. But yeah, Nep, thank you very much for joining us on this content pod.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be back.
It's been good to have you. And to Josh as well, thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, and if you heard our voices on the radio and went, what? We've got an ad on the radio.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, shout out to the podcast network that we're part of for arranging that. It was good fun. And yes, thank you very much to all you listeners out there tuning in. A reminder that you can subscribe on the various different podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. If you're catching this on YouTube, drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe there too. And thank you very much to all those supporters supporting the podcast and keeping it going, including those icon patrons: Dave B, Darren W, Hugh J, Rob W, Josh R, Ralph,
Brian, Michael B, Adam R, Make B, Michael H, Rob S, Michael K, Neil P, Jake S, Tom B, Alex M, Damon H, L, James B, Sam K, The Shirt Locker, Lee A, Chris G, Mark M, Dom P, Rob P, Roger D, Waterman, Also Ran, and Juicy. Plus a special thanks to Luke M, Dave B, Hugh J, Tom M, Darren W, and Pato Foot for advice and production assistance. Before I leave you, just one more thing to add though. Ultimate Team is a bit like life really. It has its many ups and downs. If you're having a few more downs than ups in real life in these more difficult times, then please don't feel that you're alone or need to struggle on without taking action. If you go to thecalmzone.net, there's loads of resources, advice, support, or even just a friendly chat for anyone who needs it. If it sounds like it could help you, then head over to thecalmzone.net. And for now, have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next podcast.